Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambam, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Ashmadacharya Paryandam, Vande Guru Paramparam, Sakana Vavadu, Sakana Punaktu, Sakaviryam Karavavagai, Tejasvina Vadida Mustumavat Vishabhagai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham, Malam Sarirasya Chavaityakena, Yopa Karottam Pravaram Muninam, Patanjali, Pranjali Manatosmi. Good morning. So we are looking at the Ishvara Pranidhanam onwards. The 5 or 6 or 7 sutras are giving us the importance of bringing Ishvara into our yoga abhyasa. We just read it once and then we take the meaning of it. Ishvara Pranidhanatva.
Ishvara
Pranidhanatva.
Klesha Karma Vipaka Ashahi Aparamrishtaka Purusha Vishesha Ishvaraha.
Klesha Vipakasha Purusha Vishesha Ishvaraha.
Tatra Niradishayam Sarvagnya Bijam.
Tatra Niradishyam Sarvagnya Bijam.
Sa Purveshamapi Guruhu Kalena Anavachedat.
Sa
Purveshamapi Guru Kalena Navachedat.
Tasya Vachakaha Pranavaha.
Tasya Vachakaha
Pranavaha.
So we saw the Ishvara Pranidhanam, and Pranidhanam means Bhakti Visesham, surrendering to the Ishvara. And we came to that point because we wanted to know what is the help that we can get, because by our own effort, even though we are willing hard, we are unable to focus on Chitta Vritti Nirodha. In our sadhanas, we need therefore an invisible force to guide us and take us through. And Patanjali said, that's fine. Then you take Ishvara Pranidhanam. Then we ask the question, who is this Ishvara? So in the last session, in the 24th Sutra, Patanjali gave us a very succinct definition of Ishvara, because we need to understand Ishvara in the context of the two primordial entities that the Sankhya philosophy and Yoga philosophy is holding in principle. That is Purusha and Prakriti. We know Prakriti is insentient. Therefore, we expect Ishvara to be a Purusha. Therefore, Patanjali says in the Sutra, Purusha Vishesha Ishvara. So this is a very marked deviation for Patanjali Munivar, because he moved away from Kapila's theory of pure rationalism. There is no need of Ishvara for Kapila. So Patanjali took a direction. Then he defined to us, for our understanding, a Purusha, that what we think we are afflicted by many factors. They are kleshas. The kleshas led to karmas that bind. And the karmas create effect as vipaka. And all this becomes samskara, ashayahi, So klesha, karma, vipaka, ashayaki. We are affected by that. And we saw what is klesha. We saw klesha as, remember, pancha klesha, avidya. Avidya is, what is avidya here? Avidya is not understanding that I am a Purusha. The Atma, Anatma in Vedanta, as you say, is completely messed up. False notion it gives you. The false notion is called Asmita. So Avidya, Asmita. Once Asmita comes in, I comes in, mine comes in, my belonging comes in, my family, my community, my country. So Raga, Dvesham comes in. I like what I belong to. I don't like what I don't like. So therefore we have avidya leading to asmita, leading to ragadvesha. And even though we understand through the life experiences that this embodiment is not our real nature, I am a Purusha, but still we do not want to give up the embodiment. It's called abhinivesha, which is very, very strong. That's why even the jnanis want to live forever, abhinivesha, because they want to experience this enjoyment of the boga ayadanam, the body. So the panchaklesham is what we are all affected by. Karma, we saw punya karma, papa karma. And when we do with nasmita, when we do with the selfish motive, when it is not done as a karma yoga, the punya papa gives you sukha dukkha. The shuddham and dukkham become the vipakam. Vipakam is ripen, fruition. And they come in many, many janmas. Therefore, they accumulate as a latent powers, as samskara, ashayaki. Now, then he said, aparamrishtaha. That means of all these things that I told you just now, Ishvara is untouched by this. So therefore, we know that we are touched by this. Ishvara is not. Therefore, he is not avidya, sarvagyan. Asmita is not nirgankara. Akarmi, because he has no karma. So all that is going to be the characters of Ishvara. And he is the Purusha Vishesha. So there is some insight into this, because I think when it's a Purusha Vishesha, he is different from the Purusha, or he has got some specific excellency. So what happens to us? Because we are also learning yoga, practicing yoga. We take the jnana margas. We understand klesha, karma, vipaka, asahi are not good. We need to develop our characters, shraddha, viveka. And when I attain the samadhi, I would also be free from affliction. My thought will be aklishta. I will be akarma. I'll learn. I will do karma yoga. If I do karma yoga, I will be avipaka. I won't have any of those sukha burdens. Samskara will be burnt away. When I become jivan mukta. So therefore, the logical thinking therefore would be for us. So I am afflicted by all this, but I can be a Purusha Vishesha. So therefore, I'll be an Ishvara. But that is not the case with the Sankhya and Yoga philosophy and Dvaita philosophy, because the Purusha Vishesha here, it also means that it is that Purusha who is not affected by all this in the past, now, or in the future. Forever he is free from this. Therefore, Ishvara I had never had a problem with karmas, kleshas, vipakas. But I, as Jiva, had a problem. I had innumerable births. I'm suffering. So by my virtue, by my sadhanas, by my satsanga vasas, if I am getting right path and I am becoming aparamrishtaha, I am still not Ishvara because once I got affected by it, is it not? Therefore, you can never be an Ishvara. So this is the argument for the Dvaita school, which is very logical. Now, just because you become self-realized, you are a Purusha Vishesha, but you get the omniscience and omnipotency of the Ishvara. I don't see you. So all the Avatara Purushas still look up to Brahman. So therefore, I took a very logical view that you can become pure, unaffected, not going into the samsara in the future, but you can never be the God. So you can be they call it Nitya Suri in Vaishnavism. So every Madhama has got a name for it. So you'll attain a position of, an exalted position of superior being, but still subservient to that Ishvara. Perfect, very logical. But we have a problem from the Vedanta where we come from. So if innumerable Purushas are there, as per the Sankhyas and Yogas, and innumerable evolved souls become Nitya Suri. So this is a two-tier system. So you are still bound by your supreme status that you achieved, but still not one with the Ishvara. Why we have this problem? Because in reality, we have not given away the asmita. The abhinivayesham is still there. As long as you hold an abhinivayesham, that I want to be an eternal servant to Ishvara, you will be an eternal servant to Ishvara because you want to be that. You have the I. You still don't want to give it away. It's not a purus, and it's not a completed sannyasam. Nyasam means giving away. Sannyasam is giving it away completely. So I just want to mention this to you because you see, this is the beauty of this is, in Vedantam, everything is told and then it is negated. Take next step, negated. It is nothing wrong in this because, our learning is like this in life. Now, mother tells you or father tells you, look, the sun is rotating the earth. It's very simple to understand. He comes in the east and goes in the west, so therefore he's transiting the sky. I have nothing to worry. It gives me a clear terms of reference. I can go about my world. Then you learn it is not the sun that is rotating the earth rotating the sun. You don't blame your parents that they lied to you because they gave you a lesson which is good enough for you to take it forward. The moment you understand earth is rotating, not the sun, you think you know better than your father. You got a new knowledge. And then when you go more and more in science, you see, sun is also rotating. Sun doesn't stay in a place. In every body is rotating. Each body is rotating. Any body can be a terms of reference. Is it not? As long as you know the speed, velocity, acceleration, the vector of where it is moving, mathematically I can choose anything to be my center. What is better to be the center? Yourself. That's why in our science, Bhumi becomes the center of attraction. It is not ignorance. It is a relative truth. So the reason I'm saying this because this is what Vedanta says. It keeps on moving one after the other. And each school stops at some stage. Comfort break they take. That is not wrong. That's never be wrong, because everything is uncovering the ignorance, revealing the truth, but you are not able to handle that. See, truth has to be handled. They say this, you do this particular, you take a book and say the book tells you if you do the pranayama this way, so many times, so many years, you get the kundalini released and whatever. But then why don't the teacher start taking you the lessons? But he's asking you to go and, be Ishvara Pranidhanam, go and pray to God, do Karma Yoga, do all this. Why? Because when the power is unleashed in you, you won't be able to handle it. It'll destroy you. That's what the parents do. Parents don't give you the truth which you cannot handle it. How am I born, mother? Tell me. She won't tell me. God puts you into my tummy. Perfect. But we learn. But we don't change back the truth what is heard. So here, I'm saying this because this is fine to take it. Purusha Visheshaka, Purushottama. And we become Nitya Suri. We can never be Ishvara. But here we are not doing a metaphysical such. We are taking the Abhyasa, Sadhana, Shastra. But when we talk about the Jiveshvara Aikyam, we go back to the Vedanta later. Okay, so we saw this one. Now the next one. How do we prove this? This has to be rational, isn't it? So Patanjali told there is an Ishvara who is better than you, who is free from all these things. Pray to him. Well, how do you know? What's the pramanam? See, this is very important. You need to be convinced that the teacher has got an authority to say. But you and I, most of the time, would say, this is not a problem for me. Why? Because we know, as an Astika or a Vedantic students or followers of studies of Vedanta, Veda says so. Period. Shruti says it. Well, we may have a doubt in our mind, we are always skeptical. Either because we are afraid to ask the question, or we take it, someday we'll understand. Somehow we comply. But in Vedanta, you need to be, we need to have a Viveka, Vairagyam, Shraddha, you need to have a Shraddha. So you got to have 100% Ishvara there. I don't need to know. I don't need to have a proof for that. Now, if you know that, then you can start looking at the practice to reach him. So that's what Vedanta is focusing on it. Take Vedas as the primary pramana. Even primary than Pratyaksham, even primary than Anumanam. In Vedanta, in all this Advaitam, Dvaitam, everything, Vedanta takes Shruti as the primary pramana. So therefore, we have no question to Patanjali. Yes, Ishvara is there. Patanjali is teaching for Sankhya's rationalist. So therefore, they take yukti or inference as an important one. In fact, it's a primary for them. Kapila just took on inference. Patanjali took Shruti as a basis, but bring logic to this and say, I must prove it to you logically. Yes, Ishvara exists. But don't we have logic in Vedanta? We do have logic in Vedanta. Especially in the Acharyas have applied logic. They had to apply logic because they have to deal with non-believers of Vedanta, and therefore they have to use the logic for it. But when you have absolute Shraddha, logic is not needed. Logic is also a magic, because if you don't understand, logic is a magic. If you understand, magic is a logic. Our comprehension develops over a period of time. How a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, it's a magic. But if you study biology, you know that metamorphism and it's the principles of inheritance and all that. You see, this is why it is. So here it is Anumana. So the next sutra, therefore, is going to prove that Ishvara Pramanam is what and why. So he says, 25, Tatra Niradishayam Sarvajna Bijam. Very simple sutra. So we will take these words a little bit more deeper. Sarvajna Bijam. Sarvajna Bijam. The root word nya means to know. Jnanam. Jneyam. In Tamil, the sun is called Jnayiru. Sun brings awareness. Jna. So Sarvajna means one who knows everything. Bijam means the seed, that which has got infinite potential. If you look at the seed, you do not know what it contains, what it will become. But you know it has got the infinite potential. So Sarvajna Bija means the seed of omniscient. Sarvajnanam is omniscience, knowing everything. Sarvajnan is one who has got omniscience. Therefore, we can take it as seed of omniscient. In certain books and also in certain teachers take it as, they say Sarvajna Bijam. The meaning is exactly the same, but some explain this as seed of omniscience. So I think we go by Vyasa and Sadashiva Brahmendra and Shankara. Here we take it as seed of omniscient. There is a very subtle difference. Listen very carefully, because when I say seed of omniscience means the seed will produce omniscience. Full stop. But when I say seed of omniscient means it can produce anything, omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence. Because here is a seed of Ishvara. Here, seed of omniscience, it's the seed of Ishvara Shakti, one particular Ishvara Shakti. So therefore, we will not use that interpretation. But you have to really think through this a little bit more to appreciate the difference. Seed of omniscient is the seed of Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha. It can become anything. Omniscience is part of it. But the seed of omniscience is basically brings knowledge. The other insight I would say in this sutra is, we are talking about this because of dhyanam, because he's going to take to meditation, dhyanam, who we should meditate upon. But he could have easily chosen Sarva Shaktiman, beyond power. But he chose Sarvajnan. So therefore, there is an insight, in my very humble view, insight that your dhyanam and meditation, bhakti should be jnana purvam. You should really worship the philosophy, truth, and principles of divinity for contemplation. In other words, you move from the Saguna Upasana to Sadguna Upasana to Nirguna Upasana. So that transient step, that's what I think Patanjali is indicating here. So here, therefore, he says, Tatra means in God, in Ishvara, Sarvajna Bijam, the seed of omniscient is in God. And how is it? Niradishayam, infinite. Now, this Sarvajna Bijam is in the Upanishad, in Mandika Upanishad, in Svedasha Upanishad. So he is saying Therefore, you take the Shruti Pramanam. Ishvara, you take one of the definition of Ishvara, Sarvagnya Bijam. So he brought the Shruti Pramanam into this. Now he has to use the Yukti Pramanam, logical way. So therefore, how to prove that one? So he is taking the approach. If I prove that there is someone who knows everything, then I proved existence of Ishvara, is it not? You just defined Ishvara is Sarvagnya. And he has had the Sarvagnya Bijam in him. Therefore, I need to prove, Ishvara means I need to prove that there exists a Sarvagyan. Therefore, to do that, he uses the next phrase, Niradishayam. So what is Niradishayam means? Unsurpassed, unexcelled. Disha means direction. Nirdisha, completely. Unlimited, unexcelled. Well, he's not proving anything, right? He's just elaborating that now. That Sarvagyan, and in Sarvagya, the power of Sarvagnyam is infinite in him. That means he knows everything, nothing that he does not know in the past, present, and the future. So the way he makes us to think that he has given a definition of Sarvagnya Bijams in Ishvara to be unlimited, unexcelled, unsurpassed. What the logicians do to prove that, because what the reason why they go for inference instead of pratyaksham, because it is not sensually seeable, it's not seeable, hearable, and they don't want to accept Vedas directly. Therefore, there is in between, they prepare a logic. Naturally, what they do with the logic, they take an example, Drishtanta. Example is, you saw that one, you see, there is a fire in the mountain, and I'm telling you, smoke in the mountain. I'm telling you, there's a fire. Why? Because you have seen smoke in the yajna, smoke in the old age-old kitchen. Wherever there is a fire, there is a smoke. You see, so that's how the logic goes. So here, what we can think of is, let's take the Vedantic examples. So this, Vedanta means you have to go back to the couple of very standard examples. Mud pot or a snake on the rope, and very simple and beautiful, eloquent examples these are. So let us take a mud pot. The mud pot contains something, or let's say it's empty pot. It contains space. So one pot is smaller, other pot is bigger. Why? Because the smaller pot contains smaller space inside. Bigger pot contains bigger space inside. The shape is such that because the space is contained in one thing, smaller than the other. So this is common sense. Therefore, you say there is a distinction between the capacity to hold this space. Space is here knowledge, example. One part is small, other part is bigger. One person has got small knowledge, other person has got a bigger knowledge. This is called taradamyam in Sanskrit. Taradamyam means differences, distinction. Of course, in Dvaitam, in Madhvacharya has actually made a taradamyam of devatas, because they take Narayana as the Parabrahman, and every devata is degraded gradually. Superior, less superior, inferior, lower inferior, like that. Just to progress it in life, right? But the logic here is important. So if I have taradamyam, it has to have a scale up or scale down roadmap, is it not? Big, bigger, there must be a biggest. Small, smaller, there must be smallest. This you cannot say no, because this is what the logic is all about. So if I take all the pots and put in a hall, the hall got space. Matakasham. What is akasha means? Akasha means avakasham. Avakasha means gap, containing space. So if I take the space in a pot, if I take a space in the hall, obviously the taradamyam is there. The hall is bigger than this pot. Well, then you can say, yeah, but this is one hall and there are 2,000 halls, whole London, whole city, everything is contained in the space, akasha. You can see. So therefore, there is a taradamyam there, it goes in there. You can say, look, even this, okay, you're talking about the earth and I'm talking about celestial being. What about the Mahakasha? You see, the space in a pot, now the space in the cosmology, in the cosmic vast space, Mahakasha. See the differences. If you take space to be the jnanam, you can see the differences in jnanam. It goes on, go through. So we can stop at Mahakasham and say, yeah, everything is there. Whatever you say, I say Mahakasham. See, now you prove that wherever there's a tarathamyam, there is an ultimate point where there is nothing to add, nothing else you can add to it, nothing you can take it away. It is full. Well, if you think it a little bit more deeper into Vedanta, you will say, yeah, all this is happening, exists because I think about it. So I have Chitakasham. Chitakasham, because awareness, in my awareness exists everything else. There's a dichotomy, therefore if I don't know it, does it not exist? That's a Vedanta Vicharam, we don't go there right now, we don't have time. But you see, I can say Chitakasham is bigger than Mahakasham, because when I go to deep sleep, nothing exists. I'm in an absolute conscious, everything is Layam. So therefore here Patanjali therefore says, Niradeshayam, unexcelled, all containing. So if you now take this space to be the jnanam, the infinite space of jnanam must exist, proven here. If it exists means I call it Ishvara. You can call it Chidakasham, Mahakasham, Krishna, Rama, Shiva, I don't care. It is Ishvara. So that's how he proves it. So we should not have any more doubts, should not ask any question why there is Ishvara in this, because you all agreed, a proof is given. So therefore, Tatra, in that God, Niradishayam, unexcelled, unsurpassed, what is that? The seed of omniscient. The other insight is Purusha and Purusha Vishesha. The seed of omniscient is also in us. But how it evolves is different, because our mind, the clay in the mind, in the dirt in the mind, the grace, the rain of grace that pours into the mind does not let the seed nourish well. For some it may nourish well, some may nourish not very well. Therefore, the potency of the seed is always unleveraged, unexposed. That potency is, the gate opener of potency is Chittam. That's why what we do, Chitta Vritti Nirodham, is to ensure the mind is fertilized, mind becomes a dormant capacity in which the jnanam, the seed of jnanam, can evolve, and we pour the water of bhakti into this. We plow with the vivekam. We take the weed out of the vairagyam. All these things we do that. Karma yoga fence we put in, Shraddha, we go there, like tenderly attending. So all this is happening inside us. So we still keep the hope that Aham Brahmasmi will attain. Therefore, but I had to be first become a Purusha Vishesha. So therefore, I need to really pray to that Ishvara Pranidhanam is important. Therefore, my Dhyanam, my Yoga Abhyasam, my Jnana, Vairagyam, yes, everything will be Ishvara as the primary power to drive me. Okay. Then the next one, Ishvara Prabhavam. Okay, we talked about the omniscience. Okay, you can say, okay, how about omnipresent? Why didn't Patanjali do that? Well, Patanjali didn't have time. We can do it. You exercise in your mind. How do I prove Ishvara should be omnipresent? How do you prove it? Well, very simple. Let us assume he is not omnipresent. Let's take by, we have a Puranic perception there. Ishvara is in Vaikuntha or in Kailasha or in heaven. He's not here. He's somewhere else. Or he's in my prayer room. So what happened therefore? Between me and Ishvara, he doesn't exist. I don't exist because I'm here. There is something else exists. Therefore, there is something which is not Ishvara exist. You can say Prakriti in Sankhya Yoga, but we don't accept that because even Prakriti have to be created, come out of something else. Then we remember Tattva Bodha we studied. Ishvara is a Nimitta Karana, Upatana Karana. Therefore, if Ishvara is different from me, far away from me, if there's a gap there, there is a dosha comes in because a non-Ishvara Shakti is there, which is impossible. Therefore, Ishvara should be here, 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 everywhere. So my inadequacy to see him does not make him non-omnipresent. Okay, you can think and exercise in your mind. How do you prove omnipotence? You can do that. So this is how I think you do vicharam, do mananam, so that you get convinced that when somebody says Ishvara is omnipotent, you know how to prove it. Yeah. Okay, here there's a prabhav. He says, Sa Purveshamapi Guruhu Kalena Anavachetat. Just to check the time. Okay. Sa. Sa means Saha. When you, for those of you learning Sanskrit or Sanskrit, when the Saha becomes Sa, when you have certain things that follow, like a Purvesham, Purva, P is a consonant. When it comes in, the Visargam will go away. So Sa here is Saha, Ishvara. So he is now saying the Prabhavam of Ishvara, it is endless. Yeah, you can say in so many things, but he is taking there's a reason for it. We will see why. He's giving one particular Prabhavam to understand. Purvesham. Purvesham means, Purva means the first. Purvesham, Vibhakti, of all the first, of all those who came early. If you are in a Srishti concept, something is created. So all that is created before, like the Kasya, the Brahma came from Paramatma's navel. So first he came, Brahma came in. From that, the Manasa Putras came in, Sanagadis came in. Or if you take in biblical terms, and he created a man and a woman first, and then an apple to entice them to create progeny and whatever. So there is a Purvesham. The moment you say Purvesham, the first means, what are you assuming there? We're assuming time. Is it not? If there's no time, there's nothing first or last. So we don't go into detail of the time concept now, because that is another time. But here we take it, he's mentioning about all those we consider ancient Purvam. Why we say all those? We do not know how many came out in one go. So there may be, but God is there, but there's something came before. So here he is saying the God is above them. That's the word api. Even he is even before the first came. That's the first meaning of api, even. That means he came before the creation. We don't even say he came. He is there, not there. He is everywhere. He is everywhere, or he is before creation. So that is the insight coming from here. So by this one statement, he is going to really, undo some of those logicians' view of creation and the purpose of God and everything. The other meaning of api is also. He is also Guruhu. Why the concept of Guru comes in here? Because in the previous sutra, he talked about Sarvajnam, Jnanam. Who grants you Jnanam? The Guru. And when you worship Ishvara as a Sarvajnan, so you have to be a Guru. But now you should connect these two. He is before everything else. He is also the Guru. That means he is both a Srishtikarta and a Guru. Upadesakarta, Srishtikarta. But the speciality about him, Kalena, by the time. Avachetat means influenced, limited, conditioned. Anavachetat, you add a for anything. When it is a vowel starting with a, you sort of an. So anavachet means not being limited by kalam. That means God is not limited by time. Now, this is also a great insight in Vedanta for us. Because if it is not limited by time, see, if you need to release a prisoner, and if you are a releaser, where would you stand? Outside the prison. Is it not? If you are inside the prison, you cannot. So if you are imprisoned by samsara, you should be liberated by somebody who is not having samsara. Samsara comes from what? Panchaklesha, avidya, karma, vipaka, ashehi. He is untouched. So therefore, Ishvara is the right person, sorry, forgive my English there, the right power to liberate you from samsara. We saw that Ishvara is Sarvajnan, like a space, Mahakasham, Chitakasham. Therefore, he is space unlimited. Now here he is talking about time unlimited. But because we are in a time-limited space, we can't explain, we can't discuss things which are timeless. That's the reason why he is bringing a dosha here of the firstborn is before the first. There is no first or second. Now I'm giving an insight here because this is what's going to happen. When you go on progressively to Vedanta, at some stage, all that we learned will be thrown away. Anatma, Atma, thrown away, nothing. Sarvajnan thrown away. Why? What does Sarvajnan means? Sarva means what? All. Jna means knowing. Sarvajnan knows all. That means there was something for him or her to know. If there is something to know, it's not him, it's not her. So therefore, he's not Advaitam. It falls down. So in our limited sense, because we are time limited, space limited, knowledge limited, therefore we look up to him and say, you are Sarvajna, Kalakanta. Kala Kalan. Shivan is called Kala Kalan. You know, the Kalan who comes in, the Kalan is the Yama, the god of death, right? So he is waiting, right? He says, okay, this guy has gone there. His asaya, his samskara is finished for this janma. Pack him up, let him go and get the next one. So our time is finished in this bubble of world that we think that is our world. It is to Abhinivesam, he is going to take you away. You know, you are not there, take it away. So we are limited, we know that. What about the guy who comes and takes me away all the time? The Lord of Death. He is limited because he is there. He's got that post of being a Lord of Death because he was a Nityasuri. He has gone through yoga, tapas, jnanam. He became Purusha Vishesha. He come to stage, look, Darshana, what can I do? Take care of this department, disposal of human embodiments by this rule. Take Chitragupta, your accountant. Your tenure start now. You got 120 years of Yama. Live happily. He is gone. There will be somebody else because you know what happens to all those people who elevate themselves to become the Dasa and Dasha of God. They need a role. So it will be a big queue. There is no employment problem there. So he's gone. The next one comes in. You take over. So when you do this sankalpam, you know, you say which manmantra, which rishi, you know, Shastra says, I think we are in this 14th Brahma. I'm not knowledgeable on this, but it says that there are so many Devatas come through. So it tells you that all the Purvesham, all those who are born, are within time. You see, time is now bigger than these Devas. That's why did the Devas and Asuras go then look for Amritam? They want to prolong in the time. If they have Brahmajnani, if they're able to transcend the time, Amritam is not that honey that comes out of this thing. So the Kala, so he is beyond that Kala, untouched. How to prove this? That is an exercise you should do in your mind. This is an ongoing exercise to transcend time. Newton made an assumption. It is a short arrow by God. It goes in a one vector straight, never turning back. Everything else is assigned to this. It's a classical machine. The model works very well. See, this is a beauty in this is why it's called Maya. You can compute your law, you can make definitions of it, as long as it's not against nature. And you live happily. You can derive new theories. If you stretch your imagination, now I do, and I was talking to one great scientist yesterday, and we were discussing about the DNA, genomics, and Palamabis Shankar. And it's interesting to know how a particular scientist go and look for understanding a very small piece of information, because when you go and look for more data, it expands. But there are so many to understand. But you can define certain rules, create some constraints, and you will get results. Whatever you think will happen. It's not magic. That's what you want. Because you are Sat. You are that Parabrahman. You are the Atma. Your imagination will create things. We blame God for that. So automation happens, robotics happen, you know, AI comes in, machine learning comes in, and new beings are having. Human mind asks for it. Human mind will deliver that. Maya will deliver that because that's what you wanted. So all this progress is time bound. But you need to transcend the time. So here, therefore, he proves that God is Srishtikarta and God is Adi Guru, Upadesakarta. So now you naturally will come to a point where I think I would also like to stop. I understand the Ishvara is important. I understand the Ishvara's indescribable form, power of Ishvara. I can say Sarvagyan, Sarva Shaktiman, Sarva Vyabhi. But all that I can only understand from my domain of existence, which is time and space and guna bound. Our dimensions are three, right? What are the three dimensions? We work at height, length, and width. Then as you progress it, we bring in time into this, because when you do fluid dynamics or thermodynamics, or even anything dynamic science you do, things change over time. So time becomes the fourth dimension. But the time is a corollary of space. This we discussed in the one of the Vedanta class. You remember that? When you talk about time, you have to talk about the space. They are twins, but there's one and the same. Very difficult to understand. When you understand, one becomes a Nobel laureate like Einstein. He understood it. That's why he was able to say, in fact, almost quoting verbatim to Upanishad, that he can roll up the carpet of the space, the ridge of time. Upanishad says it. He can roll up this carpet of the space. Roll means the space is curved. Space curves means what you're seeing as expansive space is in a way a bound space, because you are trapped in a curvature. So I am not able to even visualize the infinite sky. So the sky I see, in a way, is finite, because my vision is curving it. Why it is curving it? Because I'm in a place of a body which has got a force of gravity pulling towards the center of it. When this force is pulling so fast, everything is bending. Everything anatma is bending. So the space is bending. Remember that if you take a carpet you spread on the floor, that's a space, you tie up on four sides a thread, and then take all the thread in the middle. What happens when you lift it? It goes. The thread is the force. The space, the carpet is woven by the thread going left and right and east and west. One thread is time, one thread is space. The time and space woven is the carpet, is the akasha. The force of attraction is what in science we call a gravitational force. It was, I think you remember, September 2015. I think it's 14th or 15th September 2015. They found out gravitational force does exist. Okay, right. This is they are not like Vedantis. They don't take the Shruti or Shruti as a dictum. They need to use logic. So Einstein said there must be a gravitational force wave everywhere. But nobody has proven this. So in September they proved it. How did they prove it? I think it will be very interesting. We can discuss it in maybe the next class. But that's where I think they are able to identify a signal that these things happen. Now, we don't have to go into the detail, but here, what is the context? The context is Ishvara is time unlimited. Therefore, I have a question then to Patanjali, right? I understand it's awe-inspiring, miraculous, and you want me to meditate on him, but I am not capable of meditating as a Nirguna Brahman, because my mind is limited, my knowledge is limited. I can't meditate on his gunas yet. Sarvagyan, and all this is very thing. Therefore, I want to start from my first step, worship him in a form, in a Saguna Brahma form. How do I worship him? Well, I can even take one step ahead, because now I learned all these things. I don't need to really have a form, but at least I should have a name. Because I learned that forms are physical and name is a little more subtler than forms. So I can take the step 2. Let me meditate on him by the name. What shall I call the Ishvara? So that was his next question. So we'll probably take it in the next class. I think it's time. I will close it now. So what we have learned today, we learned that Ishvara is Sarvagyan, Sarvavyapi. So he has to be worshipped upon as a contemplator for us. And in the next session, we will learn how to call him. And then we learn about what is the benefit of actually worshipping with him. What am I going to gain? And what are the things I should take care of it in doing the dhyana? So there we stop with Ishvara. Then we will know, we take the next logical section, because we are going to learn that when you do with Ishvara, he's going to be Vigneshwara. He's going to remove all your Vignams. Then you must know what are those troubles I'm going to get when I take up this thing in life. So we will talk about the next class. So we close it here. We take the Shanti part. Om Ashadoma Shadgamaya
Soma Sargamaya
Tamashoma Jyotirgamaya
Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya
Jyotirgamaya
Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya.
Mrityoma Amritamgamaya.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om
Om Shanti
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 Shanti.
Shanti